Hello and welcome to Skyline. I'm Driti Atri. Tonight, Indian students, they are being deported from America. The H-1B workers, they are worried about their future. Green card rules are kind of creating a lot of confusion. A new bill wants to completely change the H-1B system. Mr. Trump, he's talking tough on trade with India. And yes, at the very same time, successful Indian Americans, they are making headlines for giving back millions to the American community. So, what exactly is happening with Indians in America? Is the American dream becoming harder to achieve, or is this simply another phase of policy change? Ladies and gentlemen, let's break it all down. First of all, can you imagine landing in America after a long flight? You have a valid visa, you have all your documents, you think that you are finally home. But instead of walking out of the airport, immigration officers, they pull you aside for questioning. Hours later, you are put on a flight back. That is a story that is making headlines today. 4 Indians, including 3 students and 1 H-1B visa holder, they were reportedly deported from the U.S. after immigration officials raised concern about possible visa violation. Now, what makes this whole story particularly alarming is the H-1B workers reportedly had valid visa approval and they had returned to America after visiting India. According to reports, immigration officers examined laptops, financial records, employment-related documents. In fact, during the questioning, the worker reportedly admitted to working remotely from India for an extended period of time. And that immediately raised a lot of concern. Why? Because immigration officials, they can closely examine whether a person is complying with the exact condition of their visa status or not. For thousands of Indians watching this story, the whole message is becoming very, very clear. The scrutiny at American airports, it is increasing. The days of casual answers at immigration counters, they may be over. Officials are checking documents, and that too very carefully, asking more questions, taking a stricter approach here. Many immigration lawyers, they are now advising the travelers to keep the employment records, visa document, travel history already available before entering the US. But for the Indian students and professionals, this story serves as a reminder that visa compliance, it is no longer just paperwork. It can determine whether you enter the country or you are going to be sent back. And this is exactly why many Indians, they are now asking a bigger question. If even legal visa holders, they are facing increased scrutiny, what happens to those waiting for green cards? And yes, that brings us to our next story. Ladies and gentlemen, for years, American professionals, they followed a very simple roadmap. Study hard, get a job, secure an H-1B visa interview, wait for the green card, build a life in America. But now, many are wondering whether that roadmap it is changing. A new immigration memo, it has triggered concern across the Indian community. You know why? Because it appeared to suggest that many applicants, they may have to leave the US and complete their green card process from their home countries instead of finishing everything from inside America. For many Indians, this is a huge issue. No community faces a bigger green card backlog than Indians. Many have already spent years, sometimes decades, waiting for permanent residency here. In fact, some families have bought homes. Others have children studying in American schools. Many have built entire lives around the expectation that their green card process, it would eventually be completed. Now, for a second, can you imagine being told that you may have to leave the country during that process? Naturally, anxiety has exploded. Immigration experts, they say that there is still a lot of confusion regarding how these rules will be implemented. But, ladies and gentlemen, the larger concern that remains the same. Every policy change, it creates a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty, it is something that Indian professionals have been dealing with for years now. Now, many workers, they feel trapped between temporary visa status and permanent residency delays, making the long-term planning extremely difficult. The American dream, it is still alive for many, but increasingly, it comes with a long waiting period and plenty of unpredictability here. And yes, while green card concerns continue, the US government has now issued another major clarification. So let's look at that next. Well, we are not targeting India. That is essentially the message coming from the US State Department. Well, as worries grew among Indian students and professionals, senior American officials, they stepped forward now just to explain their position. According to them, the visa laws, they are being enforced globally and not specifically against India. Officials say that the same standards, they are being applied to the applicants from all the countries. Now, why is this clarification important? Because many Indians, they have felt that recent immigration actions appeared unusually harsh. Social media is filled with stories of students being questioned, professionals facing additional scrutiny, and visa holders worrying about their future. In fact, the State Department says that there is no anti-India policy. Instead, officials, they argue that they are simply enforcing rules more consistently than previous administrations. And at the very same time, though, Washington is emphasizing another point here. America wants investment. America wants skilled workers, and America wants a protected opportunity for American citizens. Now that balancing act, it has become one of the biggest immigration debates in the country. The challenge for lawmakers, it is finding a middle ground between attracting the global talent and addressing concern from the domestic workers. And yes, as that debate continues, another surprising statistics, it has emerged. Well, hundreds of thousands of applicants, they are paying massive sums just to speed up immigration processing, basically a development that is raising serious questions. Now, let's talk about it. Well, what if somebody told you that the people are paying as much as $100,000 just to move their immigration paperwork faster? Sounds unbelievable, but that is exactly the claim being discussed in Washington is. According to the US officials, more than 200,000 applicants, they reportedly paid a large amount of money just to secure faster H-1B processing. The number has sparked intense debate though among the lawmakers, employers, immigration advocates. For many Indian professionals, the H-1B visa, it's more than just a work permit. It is the first step towards building a future in America. Well, it can mean better opportunity, higher salaries, and long-term stability for the entire families. But stories like this, it highlights another reality. Ladies and gentlemen, the immigration system, it has become increasingly expensive, competitive, stressful. Many workers already spend years navigating visa renewals, green card delays, and changing regulations here. Now, concerns are growing that the process, it is becoming even more complicated. Here, critics argue that faster processing options create an uneven system where those with greater financial resources, they can move ahead more quickly. But let's be honest, supporters say that premium processing, it helps reduce delays and allow businesses to fill the critical positions faster. Now, whatever the argument is, one thing is definitely clear. The demand for skilled worker visa, that remains exclusively high. And while many Indians in America, they are focused on visas and jobs, another group is facing a different challenge altogether, returning NRIs. And wait, that's where our next story, it all begins. Can you imagine spending 15 to 20 years building a career abroad? You work hard, you save money, you invest in retirement account, and then one day you decide to return to India. You think the difficult part is over, but suddenly you discover that your retirement savings, they could create tax headache for you. And that is exactly the issue many returning NRIs have been facing. Well, thousands of Indians who worked in countries like the United States, Canada, or the United Kingdom and Australia, they continue to hold retirement accounts overseas. These accounts, they often grow over the time, even when the money is not withdrawn. The problem is that different countries tax retirement savings differently. In some countries, tax is paid when the money is withdrawn. In India, certain gains, they could become taxable as they accumulate. This creates a lot of confusion and wait, in some cases, fear of double taxation. Now, a provision known as Form 40, it is offering relief. That's right, it's a good news for all. It allows the eligible taxpayers to defer taxation on specified foreign retirement accounts until and unless they actually withdraw the money. Here, experts say that this can help many returning NRIs just to avoid unnecessary tax complication and improve the financial planning here. For many professionals returning after years abroad, this could mean significant savings and greater peace of mind. Basically, it's a reminder that coming back to India, it's not just an emotional decision, it is also a financial one. And yes, while NRIs, they are dealing with tax issue, another battle involving Indians is unfolding online. Ladies and gentlemen, our next story takes us into the world of Wikipedia, controversy and allegations of bias. Most people, they visit Wikipedia for information. Few realize behind many pages there are intense battles over what gets written and what gets removed. Basically, a new report is now drawing a lot of attention to alleged bias against the Hindu American Foundation. Basically, a very, very prominent Hindu advocacy organization based in the United States. According to report, a very small group of editors allegedly played a major role in shaping content related to the organization. Well, the finding, it has kind of reignited a larger debate that kind of existed for years. Well, can Wikipedia truly remain neutral when controversial political, religious, and social and cultural issues they are involved? Here, supporters of the Hindu American Foundation, they argue that the whole organization has been unfairly portrayed. Critics, well, they maintain that the content reflect the legitimate concern and public debate. But regardless of where one stands, the whole controversy, it kind of highlights the growing influence of online platforms in shaping the public opinion. Today, many people, they learn about organization, public figures and historical events through sites like Wikipedia. That means even small edits, it can have a significant impact on how a story is perceived. Now, for many Indians and Indian Americans, the whole debate is no longer just about one organization. It is about representation, fairness, and who gets to control the narrative in the digital era. And yes, while online battle continue, another major development involving India and the United States is grabbing global attention. So let's move to our next story. US President Mr. Donald Trump has said many things about India over the years. Sometimes critical, sometimes complimentary, but his latest comments, they are making headlines for a different reason. Speaking about trade negotiations, Mr. Trump described Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a good friend and expressed a lot of confidence that the two nations would eventually reach a trade agreement. Now, at first glance, the whole remark, it may sound really positive to you. But wait, there is a bigger story underneath. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States and India are currently trying to navigate a very complicated trade relationship. Tariffs, market access, and economic competition. That remains major points of discussion. Mr. Trump, he once again argued that India had imposed heavy tariffs on the American goods in the past. And also he claims that these policies, they were designed to change that situation. At the very same time, both the governments continue discussions aimed at strengthening economic ties. And you know why this matters? Because the whole relationship between India and the US extends far beyond politics. It affects technology, manufacturing, investment, jobs, billions of dollars in trade. Business on both the ends, well, they are watching very closely because any new agreement, it could create an opportunity as well as challenge. Despite the occasional disagreement, one thing is clear. The economic relationship between the world's largest democracy and the world's largest economy, it is becoming increasingly important. And yes, while politicians navigate trade deals, a very different conversation about Indians abroad is taking place in Canada. Let's hop on to our 8th segment tonight. A festival, families, food stalls, music, cultural performances. It sounds like a celebration, right? But one video from Canada, it has suddenly become the center of a heated debate. The video, recorded at a large Indian cultural festival in Toronto, it quickly went online viral. In fact, hundreds of people, they could be seen celebrating the Indian culture, enjoying the traditional tasty food, and participating in community events. But it was the caption complying the whole video that sparked the controversy. Some social media users claimed that Canada was changing too rapidly because of immigration. Others defended multiculturalism, arguing that cultural celebrations they are part of what makes the country like Canada diverse and vibrant. The whole debate it quickly spread across social media platforms. In fact, immigration that remains one of the most emotional and politically sensitive issues in many Western countries. Supporters say that immigrants they contribute to the economic growth. They contribute to innovation, cultural diversity. Critics argue that governments must better manage the whole population growth and infrastructure challenges. For the Indian community in Canada, the whole discussion it reflects a larger reality. Indians have been one of the most visible and successful immigrant group in the country. Whether in business or maybe in education, healthcare, politics, their presence continues to grow. And while some online debate, they focus on numbers and demographics, another story reminds us of the positive contributions of Indian Americans that continue to make. In a world often dominated by headlines about conflict, immigration dispute, and political argument, sometimes a story comes along that reminds us of power of giving back. And this is one of those stories. An Indian American entrepreneur couple has donated $5.5 million to support the healthcare service in Texas. Can you imagine that? The whole contribution, it will help expand medical programs and improve the access to the healthcare for the local communities here. According to reports, it is the largest single donation in the history of hospital receiving the fund. Well, the couple, Mr. Bridge and Mrs. Sunita Agarwal, they have spent years supporting healthcare, education, community initiatives. This latest contribution, it will help establish new healthcare facility and strengthen the existing services. Ladies and gentlemen, stories like this, they often receive less attention than political controversy, but they tell us an important story. Across America, Indian Americans contribute very significantly. They contribute in medicine, technology, business, education, etc. They are not just building successful careers. They are also investing back in the communities that have helped them to grow. And at the very same time, when immigration remains a topic of intense debate, stories like these, they often create a perspective. They show that immigrant community can contribute to the society in a very meaningful way. And that's all for today's Skyline, ladies and gentlemen. From deportations and maybe green card worries to trade talks, immigration debates and inspiring success stories. One thing is clear, the lives of Indians abroad, they are changing rapidly. New opportunities are emerging, but so are few challenges. The world is changing, immigration rules are evolving, and staying informed has never been more important. Thank you for joining me. I'm Driti Atri. If you enjoyed this episode, just wait for the next one.